The sun was setting, painting the sky with warm orange and pink colors. In a quiet neighborhood, a small group of friends was getting ready for a party. They had planned to meet at a friend's house to celebrate the end of a busy week. Everyone was feeling happy and excited to spend time together. The house was not big, but the backyard was wide enough for them to sit, talk, and enjoy the cool evening air. Lena, the owner of the house, was busy setting up lights around the trees. She wanted the backyard to look nice and cozy for her friends. Some friends brought snacks, others brought drinks, and a few carried small speakers to play music. Everyone was helping in their own way. The party was simple but full of warmth and laughter. As the music started playing softly, the friends began to relax. They sat on chairs and blankets on the grass. Some people danced, others talked quietly. There was no shouting or fighting, only good feelings and smiles. The neighbors nearby had been friendly to Lena before, and she hoped they would not mind. This small gathering was just a few people, after all. Among the group was Jamal, who loved to play the guitar. He picked up his instrument and started playing soft songs. His voice was calm and smooth, and it made the evening feel peaceful. Some friends sang along, while others listened quietly. The air smelled fresh with flowers and grass, and the sky was getting darker with stars ready to shine. But not everyone was happy. A few houses down the street lived a woman named Karen. Karen was known in the neighborhood for being very strict about rules. She liked everything to be quiet and orderly. When she heard the music and laughter coming from Lena's backyard, she felt annoyed. Karen was tired from her day, and she wanted to rest. The noise bothered her more than she expected. Karen stood at her window, looking toward Lena's house. She frowned and crossed her arms. She thought the party was too loud and might get out of control. Karen worried that the noise would keep going late into the night and that it might disturb other neighbors. She did not see the happy faces or hear the calm music. She only saw a disturbance. Without thinking much, Karen picked up her phone and dialed the local police. She wanted to report the noise and ask them to come and stop the party. In her mind, calling the police was the right thing to do. She believed that the officers would come, tell the friends to be quiet, and everything would be okay again. Back at the party, the friends were enjoying themselves. They did not realize that Karen had called the police. They continued to talk, laugh, and share stories. Some were planning to meet again soon for another small gathering. The evening was peaceful, and everyone felt safe. Minutes later, 2 police cars arrived quietly on the street. The officers stepped out and walked toward Lena's house. They were calm and polite, understood that many people like to have small parties from time to time. The officers knew their job was to keep the peace and make sure no one was in trouble. Lena opened the door and greeted the officers. She explained that they were just having a small get-together with friends. The officers asked the group to lower the volume a bit so the neighbors would not be disturbed. Everyone agreed happily. They turned the music down and continued talking in softer voices. The officers spoke with a few guests, asking simple questions like how many people were at the party and what time it would end. The friends answered honestly and respectfully. The police officers smiled and said they would check on the neighbors to make sure everyone was calm. Meanwhile, Karen watched from her window with mixed feelings. She had hoped the police would stop the party quickly. But now, seeing the officers talking kindly to the friends, she was unsure. Maybe the party was not as bad as she first thought. Still, Karen stayed by her window, watching carefully. As the night went on, the party became quieter and calmer. Some guests said their goodbyes and left quietly. Others stayed a little longer, enjoying the cool air and stars above. Lena thanked the officers for coming and making sure everything was peaceful in the quiet house nearby. Karen was thinking about the evening. She wondered if she had overreacted. What if the party was not disturbing anyone else? What if the people there were good neighbors who just wanted to have fun? Karen felt a small worry that she might have been too quick to judge. The story shows how a small gathering of friends can bring happiness and connection. It also shows how quick decisions made without full knowledge can cause worry and confusion. The night was calm, but the feelings between neighbors had changed. The next days would tell what would happen next, as Karen and the friends tried to understand each other better. The next morning, the neighborhood was quiet and calm. The sun rose slowly, shining light on the small houses and green trees. People were starting their day, going about their usual routines. Lena and her friends were still thinking about the party from the night before. They hoped no one was too upset or angry about the gathering. Lena decided to take a walk to the corner store to buy some breakfast. She wanted to clear her mind and enjoy the fresh air. As she walked down the street, she noticed a few neighbors outside, talking quietly in small groups. Some looked curious, and others seemed a little tense. Lena could sense that the party had left some feelings in the air. When Lena reached the store, she saw Officer Ramirez, one of the police officers who had come to the party. He was talking with the store clerk and seemed friendly. Lena smiled and walked over to say hello. Officer Ramirez returned her smile warmly and asked how the party had gone. Lena told him that the party was peaceful and everyone had cooperated when the police arrived. She said she hoped no one was upset. Officer Ramirez nodded and said that sometimes neighbors get worried, but it was important to listen and talk to each other. He said he would check in on the neighborhood to keep peace and help everyone feel safe. As Lena left the store with her breakfast, she thought about how the police officer's words made sense. Maybe the problem was not just about noise, but about neighbors not understanding each other. She decided she wanted to talk more with people around her to build better trust. Meanwhile, Karen was also outside, watering her plants in the small garden by her house. She saw Lena walking by and stopped for a moment. Karen's face looked serious but calm. She was still feeling unsure about what had happened the night before. Karen remembered the loud music and the laughter. She had thought it was a big disturbance. But now, hearing how peaceful things were, she felt confused. Maybe she had judged the party too quickly. Still, Karen had always believed in following rules and making sure the neighborhood stayed quiet and safe. Lena greeted Karen politely and said, "Good morning. I hope you are doing well." Karen nodded and replied, "Good morning. I was just thinking about last night. I didn't expect the party to be so calm." Lena smiled and said, "We try to be respectful. It's important for all of us to enjoy our homes." Karen looked at Lena and said, "I guess I should get to know my neighbors better. Maybe I was too quick to call the police." The two women talked for a few minutes about the neighborhood and how people sometimes misunderstand each other. Lena suggested having a small meeting with neighbors to share ideas and get to know one another. Karen thought it was a good idea, but was still a little nervous. As the day went on, more neighbors began to talk about the party. Some were happy to hear that nothing bad had happened. Others were curious about the group of friends who had gathered. Few remembered hearing about Lena and her work in the community. She was known for helping with local events and supporting neighborhood projects. Jamal, a friend who played guitar at the party, was walking down the street when a neighbor stopped him. The neighbor asked about the music and the group. Jamal explained that they were just friends having a small celebration and trying to enjoy the evening together. He talked about how important it was to create friendly spaces where people could connect and feel safe. The neighbor smiled and said, "That sounds nice. Maybe I should come to the next one." Jamal laughed and said, "You're welcome anytime." This small conversation helped spread a better understanding among neighbors. Later in the afternoon, a small group of neighbors gathered at the park nearby. Lena and Karen were both there, along with a few others. The group sat on benches and shared stories about living in the neighborhood. Some talked about their families, their work, and their hopes for the community. Karen listened carefully as others spoke. She realized that many people cared about the same things she did: peace, safety, and friendship. The group talked about ways to help each other and solve problems together. Lena suggested starting a neighborhood watch and organizing more social events to bring everyone closer. Karen felt a change inside her. She saw that by working together, the neighborhood could be a better place for everyone. She wanted to be part of this positive change, even if it meant changing her own way of thinking. As the sun began to set again, the group said goodbye with smiles and promises to meet soon. Karen and Lena stayed a little longer, talking quietly about how misunderstandings can happen but can be fixed with kindness and effort. That evening, Lena returned home feeling hopeful. She knew that building trust would take time, but the first steps had been taken. The party from the night before was now a small memory. replaced by the start of new friendships and a stronger community, Karen, too, reflected on the day. She understood that calling the police was not always the answer, and that sometimes listening and talking could solve more problems. She felt ready to try a different approach in the future. The story shows how neighbors can move past fear and suspicion through communication and understanding. It reminds us that a community is made stronger when people come together with open hearts and minds. The days after the party passed quietly in the neighborhood. The small meeting at the park had left a good feeling among the neighbors. People started greeting each other more often when they saw each other on the street. The warm smiles and nods showed that something was changing for the better. Lena was busy planning more ways to bring the community together. She thought about organizing a weekend picnic in the park where families could come, bring food, and enjoy games and music. She believed that these small gatherings would help people understand each other and create stronger bonds. Karen was also thinking a lot. She had always been careful and serious about rules. But now she realized that being too strict sometimes made her miss the good in people. She began to see the friends from the party not as troublemakers, but as neighbors who wanted to be part of the community. One afternoon, Karen decided to visit Lena's house. She wanted to talk more and maybe apologize for calling the police. So quickly, when Karen arrived, Lena welcomed her with a kind smile. Sat in the backyard, where the party had been held. Now quiet and peaceful. Karen looked around and said, "I'm sorry for causing trouble last week. I didn't know who you all were, and I was afraid things would get out of hand." Lena nodded and replied, "Thank you for saying that. I understand why you felt that way. Sometimes it's hard to know what's really happening from far away." They talked for a long time about their lives, their families, and their dreams for the neighborhood. Karen shared how she had grown up in a small town where people always looked out for each other. She missed that feeling in the city and hoped to find it again here, Lena told Karen about her work helping people in the community. She said she wanted to create a place where everyone felt welcome and safe. Karen smiled and said she wanted to help too. Meanwhile, Jamal and some of the other friends from the party had been visiting neighbors' homes, inviting them to the upcoming picnic. They wanted everyone to come together and enjoy a day outside. Some neighbors were happy to join. While others were still unsure, the day of the picnic arrived with bright sunshine and a cool breeze. Families brought blankets, food, and children ready to play. The park was filled with laughter and happy voices. Lena set up a small stage for music, and Jamal brought his guitar. Karen arrived with a basket of homemade cookies. She walked around, greeting neighbors she had not spoken to before. She noticed how people smiled back and thanked her for the cookies. For the first time in a long time, Karen felt she truly belonged. The picnic was a success. Children played games like tag and catch, while adults talked and shared stories. Some neighbors joined in singing with Jamal's music. The day was filled with joy and new friendships. At one point, Karen stood near the food table and spoke quietly. With Lena, she said, "I never thought a party could lead to this. I was so quick to judge, but now I see how important it is to come together." Lena smiled and replied, "It's never too late to change and grow. We all make mistakes, but what matters is what we do after." As the sun began to set, people started packing up. The park was still full of happy memories and promises to meet again. Karen felt grateful for the chance to be part of something good, back at home. Karen thought about the party and the days that followed. She realized that the friends at the party were not just young people having fun. They were caring neighbors who wanted to build a better community. She felt proud to know them and excited about the future. The story shows that sometimes people need to look beyond their fears and first impressions. It teaches that kindness, understanding, and communication can turn strangers into friends. Through small acts of courage and openness, a neighborhood can become a true home for everyone. After the picnic, the neighborhood felt more alive than ever. People started to notice small changes everywhere. Neighbors helped each other with chores, children played together outside, and even strangers greeted each other with friendly smiles. The warmth that had been missing was slowly returning. Karen felt different too. She began to see her neighbors not as strangers, but as friends and family. One morning, she decided to do something she never thought she would. She invited some neighbors over for coffee. It was a small gathering, but it meant a lot. Lena was among those invited. She brought homemade muffins and a warm smile. The group sat around the kitchen table, sharing stories about their lives, their challenges, and their hopes. Karen listened carefully, realizing how much she didn't know about the people living so close to her. During the conversation, Lena talked about the power of forgiveness and understanding. She said, "Sometimes we make mistakes and we judge others without knowing the full story, but when we open our hearts, we find we have much more in common than we thought." Karen nodded, feeling grateful for the chance to learn and grow. She shared how she had been quick to judge the party the week before, and how she now understood that fear and misunderstanding had guided her actions. The group appreciated her honesty and welcomed her warmly. Meanwhile, the neighborhood started new traditions. Every month, people gathered for a potluck dinner in the park. They took turns bringing food, music, or games. These gatherings became a time to celebrate friendship and support. Slowly, the walls between houses and hearts came down. Jamal often played his guitar, and sometimes children sang along. Karen even learned a few songs and enjoyed the music more than she expected. She found joy in these simple moments, moments she had missed before. One day, Karen decided to help organize a neighborhood cleanup. She spoke to Lena and the others, and together, they planned a day where everyone would pick up trash, plant flowers, and fix broken fences. The event brought many people out, working side by side. The cleanup was hard work, but it was fun too. People laughed as they worked, shared snacks, and told stories. Karen saw how even the smallest acts of kindness made a big difference. Neighborhood looked brighter and happier. At the end of the day, Lena thanked everyone for their effort. She said, "When we care for our homes and each other, we build something stronger than walls or fences. We build trust and love." Karen felt proud. She had learned a valuable lesson about community and connection. She realized that her fears had kept her from seeing the good in others. Now, she wanted to be part of the change. As the weeks passed, Karen and Lena grew closer as friends. They supported each other through difficult times and celebrated the good moments together. Their friendship became a bridge between old habits and new hope. The story shows how people can heal and grow when they choose kindness over fear. It teaches that communities are not just buildings, but the people who live in them. By working together, neighbors can turn a place into a true home. The seasons slowly changed, and with them, the neighborhood grew even closer. What had started as a small party and a quick call to the police had blossomed into something much bigger, a true sense of community. People no longer kept to themselves, behind closed doors. Instead, they shared their time, their stories, and their kindness with one another. Karen felt proud of how far they had come. She remembered the night she called the police and the mixed feelings she had afterward. She saw that her quick action had led to a new beginning. She was no longer a strict and distant neighbor, but a friend who cared deeply about her community. One cool autumn evening, the neighbors gathered again, this time to celebrate the neighborhood's success. They set up tables in the park, decorated with colorful leaves and twinkling lights. Families brought homemade dishes, and children ran around playing games, their laughter filling the air. Lena stood by the small stage, ready to speak. She looked out at the crowd and smiled warmly. She began by thanking everyone for their openness, their effort, and their kindness. She said, "This neighborhood shows that when we listen and try to understand each other, great things can happen. We have built a home where everyone feels safe and loved." Karen watched with a full heart. She had helped organize the event, and as she looked around, she saw faces she now knew well, faces that had once seemed distant or unfamiliar. She realized that every person here had helped build this community, including herself. After Lena's speech, Jamal took the stage with his guitar. He played soft songs that everyone could sing along to. Karen joined in, her voice blending with the others. The music was a symbol of their friendship and unity. As the night grew darker, the neighbors sat around small fires, sharing stories and dreams. Karen spoke with Lena and others about how important it was to keep this spirit alive. They agreed to continue working together supporting each other through good times and hard times. One young mother thanked Karen for her change of heart. She said, "You showed us that it's never too late to learn and grow. You helped make this place a home for all of us." Karen smiled, feeling humbled and grateful. Later, Karen took a quiet walk home under the starry sky. She thought about her journey from suspicion and fear to friendship and hope. Sometimes it takes time, patience, and kindness to see the true heart of a person. The neighborhood was no longer just a group of houses. It was a family. They shared joys, helped through struggles, and celebrated each other's successes. Karen knew that challenges would come again, but she felt ready to face them together with her neighbors. This story reminds us that understanding and connection can grow from the smallest moments. It shows that mistakes can lead to forgiveness, and that courage to change can bring people closer. Most of all, it teaches that a community is built not just with bricks and roads, but with kindness, respect, and open hearts.